Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast for our final segment of the day, where on Saturday night we saw the Florida Panthers defeat the Edmonton Oilers 3-0 in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So we are going to be breaking down that game, where it was an interesting one. Definitely not a traditional win. You look at the score, 3-0, you must have thought that the Panthers dominated this game, but really for the most part, it was the other way around, where the Oilers controlled just about the entire game throughout, but the Panthers took advantage of their opportunities, and it was somewhat reminiscent of the Oilers winning their Game 6 closeout game against the Dallas Stars in the Western Conference Finals, where they were outshot by 26 in that game, and yet were still able to win that game thanks to the timely plays, which is exactly what happened for the Panthers in this game, where the Oilers outshot the Panthers 32-18. They had numerous scoring opportunities, but first off, Sergei Bobrovsky was the story of this game, and somewhat similar to the fact that Skinner, who has had his ups and downs, stepped up in a big way during Game 6. This was that, but on steroids, the way that Bobrovsky was able to play. 32 saves, 0 goals allowed, and he has just been on a heater for the Panthers throughout this win streak, stretching back to Game 4 of the series against the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals, where they've won 4 straight games. He has saved 101 out of 106 shots that he's faced, a 95% save rate, and some of these opportunities, we want to talk about special teams, and that is something that I viewed as the X factor for this series, between two of the top penalty kills in the postseason, number 1 and number 2 from Edmonton and Florida respectively, plus the fact that the Oilers are the number 1 power play in the postseason, and they went 0 for 3. Now, they had plenty of opportunities on Saturday, where it was, I believe, according to Natural Stat Trick, website out there that covers NHL stats, 14 shot attempts, 9 scoring chances, and 5 high danger scoring chances, and they went over on the power play, and in large part, credit Florida for their penalty kill, that they have, been tremendous this streak. There's something along the lines of killed 35 of 37. Numbers might be slightly off, but stand somewhere around there. But it was Bobrovsky, making play after play, and it went beyond just the power play as well. It was stopping these fast break opportunities. He had that unreal cartwheel save against Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at one point as well. So it has just been so incredible to see him play the way that he is. When you talk about the Conn Smythe Award, obviously, there are still a number of names that are out there, and especially if the Oilers end up winning this series, Connor McDavid, probably the number 1 candidate, at least in my eyes. But, you have to give Bobrovsky his flowers for how well he has performed up to this point. A 2-time Vezina Trophy winner, and now is playing on this biggest stage with his new team, and has just been unbelievable for them. And on the other end, Stuart Skinner, like I mentioned, has been a little bit shakier for for this postseason run, and has been one of the bigger concerns. It was one of the reasons why I decided to, I leaned with the Panthers in this series, because of the differential in net. But it's hard to blame him for this game. Now, he allowed 2 goals within the first 5 shots of the game for the Panthers. Ultimately, those were sort of, hustle plays and breakdowns defensively that Skinner was left out to dry a little bit. And, CC and Nurse especially, who has been questioned at times throughout this postseason run, had the breakdown. I believe his was on that Rodriguez goal, where it was Sam Bennett dumping it into the zone, out hustling the number of defenders for Edmonton, and then kicking it back out with a great pass to Rodriguez, all alone in front of the net, where he's just able to easily put it, in the top corner. Again, I just feel like Skinner, I have been critical of throughout this postseason. I don't believe that Saturday night's game is a representation of when to be critical of him. This was definitely a wake-up game for the Oilers. And, all of that being said, like I mentioned, they still outshot the Panthers 32-18, and they had all of these opportunities. But just in those, slight moments where you just lose the mental battle at times. And the Oilers have been tested throughout this postseason. I feel like they've done a tremendous job answering the bell when their backs are against the wall. But that was definitely disappointing to see from their defensemen. And ultimately, you get 32 shots on net and you aren't able to put any of them in. It felt like this weird nervous energy, really from both sides to some degree, of in the Panthers arena. There was never really a moment where they were able to build up this tremendous momentum. Sure, you can ride on the excellence of Bobrovsky in this game, but at the same time, they were very much dominated in terms of the time of puck possession throughout this game. So it didn't feel like they had all of these, massive opportunities to build off of, and yet they converted on those first two instances that just gave them the cushion they needed. And, for the Oilers, it does feel a little bit dejecting, I would say, when you have all of these opportunities and yet none of them are going in. And it feels like no matter what you throw at the opposing team's goalie, that he's going to make the save. It's a tough situation to be in, absolutely, for the Oilers. But ultimately, I think that their approach to this game has to be replicated moving forward. I definitely wouldn't be, back to the drawing board in terms of what they do. They were getting McDavid tons of looks, 6 shots on net, and it's just going to come down to some degree, can you put the pressure on Bobrovsky, which they did in game 1, and ultimately he was able to come out on top in those instances. But if you keep pestering him, you would think that eventually you're going to have to break him down in order to sort of snap this red hot streak that he's been on. And in order to, snap the win streak for the Panthers, it's going to have to be getting to him. But, this was the first time the Panthers have ever held a 2-goal lead in a Stanley Cup Finals game. And I believe the first time the Panthers have ever held a series lead in the Stanley Cup Finals in franchise history. So this is, a big moment for them, and they are extremely talented. I picked them headed into the series. Now, Edmonton, when you talk about, individual skill of Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the others, that top line, of course, Hyman, you want to throw him in there as well. They have the offense to be able to break through with Bobrovsky, but, this felt like a game where, sort of similar, if you want to make the comparison to Game 2 of the NBA Finals, where it felt like the Celtics played a bad game, and yet they were able to win. The Mavericks may be kicking themselves if this series gets a little bit more contested and they fall short. I feel like that's probably a, similar sentiment for the Oilers moving forward here, where it feels like this is a game they should have won. And Connor McDavid joked about it a little bit in the post-game interview, talking about the fact that maybe it was the hockey gods making up for their Game 6 game, where he said outright they maybe didn't deserve to win that game, but they ultimately do. Cards kind of flipped on them into this game, so they fall short. Final goal came on an empty netter in the third period, but definitely a lot that you can come out with some optimism for the Oilers in terms of the types of looks that they were getting, but you got to be staring at Sergei Bobrovsky and worry a little bit as to whether or not he's ever going to return to human form throughout this final. So let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Game 2 is tonight, So should be interesting to see whether or not they do end up breaking through. But again, let us know your predictions. That is all the time we have for today, though. Thank you very much for tuning into the GSMC Sports Podcast. Thank you to the GSMC Sports Network for allowing us to host this show. Remember to like, follow, subscribe wherever you keep up with us. Check us out on social media as well. For more exclusive short content, we are live every 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern on weekdays, so we will be back tomorrow afternoon. We will see you then. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.